John, Susan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Long time coming. I'm happy to have you in. I'm excited. Let's start off with the hard-hitting stuff. What do you think about wave pools?
Oh, well.
We were talking earlier, and I got to thinking about some of the stuff you were saying. We were talking about Florida and chasing swells. Then we were talking about the Netherlands surf, then your Danish friends. And I started thinking about wave pools. I'll start with my thoughts. I think, well, same thing I think about Nosara. It's already discovered. The secret's out. So the idea of hiding it, that's so far gone. Like, how do we deal with it, in my opinion, is we steer into it. And you guys have done the same in many facets too. So I started thinking about waves. It's crowded.
Right.
I'm from Florida. There's no waves in Florida. It's a lot of backed up energy. Then I started thinking about just the planet everywhere. Everywhere there's conflict, everything. Like, if there was surf around, I think the world would be better. And I'm not saying it replaces the ocean thing. I actually think it would help at this point. So the idea of not having them because it's not core or cool, that's not helping anything. There's a lot of people like me and you who just wanted to surf. So on a lighthearted, but I actually am interested in it. What do you think about wave pools?
Yeah, I hear that, and I love the idea of people getting a water experience. I would just hope, well, two things. One, people getting that water surfing experience and democratizing that. I love the idea of that. That's cool. The only thing I would hope is that they're also finding a way to get a real nature experience, because we've been at Slater's wave pool on the West Coast, and they were friend of a friend kind of thing. And it was really kind of like orthogonal to everything that was around there, in a way where it was like, wow, this is like Area 51 or something. You know, it's like it's like so different from everything around it, and it was both cool and also kind of like, huh. But here's the second thing for me that I think wave pools could be really good for is learning technique. When you're learning, you know, someone like Josh Waitskin will tell you, you know, probably that you want to isolate all the crazy variables if you're trying to learn something and just like work on that one thing. And you can do that in a wave pool.
That is what Waitskin would say first off. He would measure it and quantify it in some manner, so shout out to him. But that made sense. I'm seeing what the skate park's doing for this community, so shout out to everyone in every way.
Huge.
But
fantastic.
What if that was everywhere, in every city? Like, it's the great equalizer. It takes away race, creed, nationality, socioeconomic status. Like, I can't poke a hole in it.
Let's add that. Okay, so while we're at it, let's add, you know how we have these green areas that NCA is protecting now, that were originally golf course greens in the original plan. Let's add that, like, we combine that, the skate park, and the wave pool. And I think everybody globally just mellows out and co-regulates together a little better.
Okay.
Susan, are we off on a crazy tangent here?
Well, we are, of course, but that's okay. I like tangents.
It's our happy place.
I'm just going to push back a little bit. I don't want to be rigid or such a purist that I can't be open. And I definitely, the idea of a wave park is not like all bad to me. It's sort of like a climbing gym for climbers. However, I do think it's important where they are.
Talk me through that, because I want to go to every war zone where every people are really mad and build the best wave pool, and everyone leaves their guns at the door because they can't bring it in the water anyway. And honest to goodness, I don't see what's wrong with it if we're going to send so much money everywhere, all around the world, and fight about it all the time.
Yeah, I guess I think about water. Like,
that's a fair point.
Yeah, like
water's important, energy's important.
Place, and you're putting in, like, I mean, I don't know enough about wave pools. The only ones I've seen are very, very, very big. And so that's where, that was sort of like, would I want a wave pool right here? And I personally would still want to be in the ocean. It's just so beautiful. It's just such a like
here it's available.
And it's so available. It's like, I do definitely get the idea that we could work on, our skill level. But here it's so dry, I would feel that it wasn't the right place, But I think
Right. If someone's going thirsty because there's a wave pool, that's
or if toilets can't flush, we could
Toilets
segue
can't.
into water in the area right now. We're peak dry season. We're
Yeah.
having water shut.
shortages.
access issues.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we don't have the pumping capacity to refill it. So again, shout out to Asada, everyone who
Yeah.
works on all this stuff.
Yeah, thank
Very, very
you.
challenging situation. And there's not an easy answer to any of this because you're
No.
not going to stop development. You can't pause things and temper it as best you can, but people are coming.
Mhm.
So we don't have the pumping capacity. We don't have the electrical grid. We got a lot of issues. I mean, we could go on and on. We also
Yeah.
need to fight like holy heck to keep the green areas because that's what saves us from becoming Oaxaca, Tamarindo, everything else.
Yeah.
So I guess just fast forward. Your journey here is already out there all over the internet. People can check all that stuff. You've had real, actual journalists do all that. I'd rather just be real and kind of shoot from the heart as far as
Yeah.
Nosara goes.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Talk us through how do we deal with becoming popular, high end, at the same time, how do we accept the inevitable and roll with it as best we can, right? How do we do that? How do we navigate these next 8 to 10 years, I would guess? Because my opinion is the past 12 years or so and the next 8, I think, are about for the sweet spot for me of this place. Is just, we have just enough doctors, just enough pavement now, shout out Kai Modelo. We just have enough stuff to kind of
Yeah.
actually be like, wait, it's kind of safe to be here. It's a little more comfortable. So it's not all bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're having water's being shut down. And so people can't flush their toilet and that's off.
So
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Totally.
Two
Yeah.
things right off the bat. The first thing is equanimity. That's the first thing you got to have, because if you don't have equanimity, if you then your limbic system gets activated and you start looking at everything through a scarcity frame. And that's when people make their worst decisions and where they feel separate and it becomes like a zero-sum game and all of that. That's where humanity tends to go down the toilet.
it's easy to go there.
It's
Yeah.
easy to go there, but it's easy also to not go there, especially if you're in Nosara. This is a place where you can't swing a cat without hitting a meditation class, It's like,
Hey, you're going to catch some flack for saying swing a cat.
yeah, I may. Sorry, it's leftover from
It's
my
from
12-year-old
spouse.
self.
I have a lot of colloquialisms like that.
Nice.
that I
So keep
throw
them
out.
coming.
Then the second thing I think is making sure we're doing it together and that no one's getting left behind. And that means inevitably people making sacrifices. And that's okay. It's like
So accept that. Accept the sacrifice.
going in knowing that bringing everyone along, like finding the solutions that raise all boats
Yeah.
is where we want to be. And that's like where we have to be. And that's where I think Costa Rica needs us to be, like.
Do you feel like
The
we're
world
becoming that
needs us to
model that the world needs us to be, as you're saying? Like, do you feel that we are becoming that model? Because with the podcast and just word on the street and just my day job, I hear the negatives nonstop. Sometimes it gets taxing. And then I have to remember, like, wait, it's not all bad. We're actually doing good. This could be a model. The hope's not all gone. Being mad about yesterday not being the same today. That there's now a house at a spot that there didn't used to be. That's hard to digest. Like, we lived for 15 years in the jungle back in Salvamar, and then next thing you know, there's 12 people all around. It's completely changed. It's surrounded by houses, and it was taxing. And I'm in the machine. I'm part of it. So I admit that. Like, I get it. I'm trying to steer into the wind. Like, when I do a surf report now, I'm not doing it saying, please come learn about Nosara, come wonderful Nosara. They're already here. Everyone already knows. It's more of, hey, do you see the trees that are here? That they got here by paying attention to it. So I kind of feel from the reserves to everything, it's more like what you're saying, find a way to lift all the boats. I don't know how to lift the boats though, because we're always fighting. And that's why you guys also doing things like this can be inopportune because somebody can use it in the wrong angle or the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? So how do you guys balance your life here because you are deeply involved. You also came here. You guys basically met and formalized like your relationship here. Like you
Yeah.
guys, your heart's in this.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
met in the water here.
Yeah,
Nice.
we met
Yeah.
surfing.
And then we met again.
We met surfing, but
Yeah.
I would like to say, being a Florida girl and coming from Miami where there were so many guys in the water, for years I wouldn't admit that we met surfing because it was like all business in the water, no flirting in the water.
Oh, I got it. It was focus time. Like,
Yeah, and just I learned to surf in Miami with Lee Bailey, who you might know was one of my best friends. There were 4 of us women and like hundreds of guys. So that's why I had that attitude of
I got you.
like, it's,
Well, hey, fast forward to now.
yeah,
Water's filled with women.
yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. It's filled with women and I'm really enjoying it, to be honest. And I enjoy the whole vibe here, and it's always been a good vibe here.
So just riffing off
Yeah.
what you're saying, yeah, the lineup is crowded. And
Yeah.
so what you do is you adapt.
Yeah.
You adapt. And for me, what's that look like? That means I wake up early. Sometimes I wake up at 4:30 if I'm surfing and I go out. I've also fallen, as I've shared with you, fallen back in love with body surfing. And that getting out in Ostianal in, head high barrel body surfing is currently my biggest water joy right now. That's like,
Are you wearing fins?
oh, got to be able to get in those waves. Otherwise,
Do you use
it's
hand
just-
planes? I'm scared of hand planes in heavy surf. Like
Oh, yeah.
if it's thumping.
Yeah.
That's never that had so if it's a really fast wave, you want a hand plane because then you can get your upper body a little bit out and speed up and get down the line.
You and
But-
Herbert are out there practicing.
But I was just saying,
Figuring this
Herbert
thing out,
never
aren't you?
he never
He-
uses a hand plane.
Yeah, he never uses a hand plane.
Huh.
So you don't have to use one.
He
But the
he
fins you need. You gotta have the fins.
he taught me a great technique. We were getting all these barrels, and I was like, Herbert, I'm running out of air. These rides are so long. And, he's like, I'm having to kick out. And he's like, hey, no problem. Just roll on your back and breathe in the barrel. And I was like, oh, I did it. Anyway, he's taught me so much. I came in thinking I knew a lot, and then he really helped me
He's
recalibrate
amazing.
that.
Such an amazing waterman.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you guys
Yeah.
met the water here. You're adapting to the crowds and all that type of stuff
Yeah.
through different stuff. What do you guys do in the area? What can you probably speak
Can I
about?
actually
Like,
go back to something
Yeah.
you guys were just talking about?
sure.
You were talking about getting attached to like what was yesterday. I try to just think about what we're doing right now and how we want to live. I think the other thing you kind of brought up was, are we succeeding or are we failing? And I think that can be really distracting. Because if I've been a environmentalist for a very long time, and I sometimes have felt very defeated and fearful.
I bet the majority of the time it's easy to feel that way. I'm just thinking of all the people watching this because they see us, they see what I do,
Yeah.
what you do, who we are, these visible
Yeah.
people. So a lot of people are already at that spot of tension up. I would like for people to know where the intentions are coming from and how do we rise all ships. That actually truly is a unified thing. People actually really do care.
They do really, and this community cares. And I think care is so important. And I think that's the kind of thing to put your energy into. Instead of feeling like, are we failing or are we not? I think that sometimes we have to mourn. We do have to grieve, like when a chapter is closed or when something beautiful has stopped being appreciated and been removed. I think sometimes we have to grieve. But I also think that in general, just doing your best to live the way you think you ought to is the most important thing.
And I think, if like as soon as we use a frame kind of tied into that equanimity, serenity thing, as soon as we're using a frame of succeed or fail, now we're in a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
So like one of the first things to do is switch from the on-off framing to a slider. How well are we doing? And that just takes some of the pressure off, which brings that limbic system, helps that limbic system relax. And now our decision-making capacity goes way up. Like we're just able to make better decisions.
Agreed. So also to clarify, I wasn't ever saying succeed or fail is in black or white.
Yeah.
I was more trying to say your slider analogy that you so aptly put.
Okay.
Because we're not, it's not this or that. I think the point, I'm conveying there's already a lot of built up resentment, and I see it in my day-to-day life all the time. So when your names are brought up, it brings a lot of what I feel is inaccurate energy, and that's also why I'm so happy to have you on the podcast, because I've gotten to know you personally, and I hear it's Nosara. It's like high school. Let's just not hide from it. It is like high school. It is small town, big hell.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard every rumor that can basically be said about you guys said, and I just watch it, and it's like, that's not accurate.
I've had people tell me the rumors before. They don't know who I am, of course. It's pretty funny. I'm like, oh, really?
All right, so you get my point. So I'm thrilled to have you here for that reason. And again, that's back to, are we doing so bad? Because I honestly don't think we are. I think the slider is actually like, we have a real beautiful thing here. That's why I'm trying to say, I think it's not over by any means. I think we still have some juice left in the squeeze of even the early nostalgia, believe it or not, as long as we keep the green areas in place.
And I think we can keep replenishing the juice if we make good decisions.
So there's the question.
The squeeze will go on forever if we can make some good decisions.
It seems like in recent years, we've had a nice focus over to the people from here. Again, shout out to the Biblioteca, and people have been doing it forever, but it's Edunamica and other things are coming. That gives me hope because the people actually want to hire people from here. And people who are coming into the community, I don't know of people who are like, I'm coming here to imperialism. Yeah, here's my flag. It's not. People are trying to get away. They want a touch of it. Like, you know what I mean? We are in it together. And then how do we go about it? Well, normally in Nosara, what we all do is we just kind of get on our islands. We stay in our safe tent, hang out with the same people, kind of form like our little. But we can't raise all ships if we stay there. So again, that's part of the purpose of this podcast is how do we get information flowing from all the social scientists, and everyone comes down. Almost everyone seems to say, you guys pretty much agree. Like one of the studies is like 90-something% of you guys agree. You guys just don't communicate. So between your community organizations and then your government organizations and then the key leaders, there's a lot of water in between you guys. You guys need to get the boat to rise and then flow information that you can be competitors, but you can still get information to flow.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting solutions there, maybe some public-private partnerships that, I think Caio Modelo, while not perfect, is a great start to figuring out how to all come together to solve an issue or start to solve an issue.
Name's perfect. Like it's a model. I feel Nosara should aim to, like you said, mourn the things that we can mourn. You have to, that's good. That's actually a good point. That's kind of healthy. Like when, a good example would be when in the G section, on the northern boundary at our largest section of nature reserve, the Richmond-Phipps dispute, a lot of people thought that was nature reserve. So when all that happened, that was a big hit.
That's right. That
so
was a big hit.
That stuff happens, but it's not over. Now we have a skate park. Now we have Caio Modelo. As an example, like we might be able to, as you said, keep adding to this. So that's good to hear that you're hopeful.
I am loving that skate park so much. I've gone back. So I skateboarded as a kid. I've gone back. I'm 57, 58. I don't know, whatever. And
whatever.
And literally back in there, trying not to embarrass my kids, but like starting to pull some turns and pump and just like, and the joy I was feeling. I was like, that's another thing. That's another way I've adapted. Like that I really.
Are you going to come skateboarding soon?
I am. I'm kind of terrified of breaking my leg or something, but I'll be the one who has like pillows tied around me and everything, like every single piece of gear to protect myself.
That's an invention. Somebody should come up with like a crash chute. Like I would buy it.
Seriously, I would too. I would too. No, I really want to learn how to skate. I think it would be another one of those things like you're talking about the wave pools opening up surfing. I feel like that would allow me when I'm not in this wonderful place to have something I would really enjoy, I think.
There's some
accessing.
joy you can touch doing that. I
I
felt
agree
it.
with you.
I was back there. It's like a frozen wave.
Yeah.
And,
I did 3 months in the States, seeing my parents. Thank goodness they're still alive, but they're out on a farm. We're not near any surf, and I needed to move. And we put down some pavement and a little quarter pipe. It gave me a way to bond with my son. This is right as the skate park's being done here. And I got one of those wiggly boards,
Yeah.
like the carvers.
I've seen
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
And that changed everything for me. I just go out there and go figure eights over and over, but it gave me the pumping motion in surfing. So when I got back to town after visiting the parents, I did a floater on a wave and stayed at the top a lot longer than I normally would have because I was used to that feeling, and I was
Yeah.
like,
yes.
Yeah.
they're talking, they're related, this is great. So I'm exactly where you're at. I'm trying not to embarrass my son. I'm trying not to get hurt, but it's
Right.
adding value to my life. And now when it's rainy, there's something else to do. Or in the middle of the day, if I'm stressed out because stuff's happening, I can break away to that skate park and get in a quick workout, nice release, and then be like, all right, Nosara's okay.
And it's a nice little social scene down there, you know?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
sure.
kind of give a description of what you guys are up to and where you're in and where your focus is between your business initiatives and what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that happened to us with the Harmony was we had a lot of guests say, hey, we fell in love with your hotel. And so we would come here. And because of your hotel, we fell in love with Nosara. And we've been looking around for a home. And we've been scared to run construction remotely from where we live. And we haven't found anything yet that we could picture ourselves in terms of a home. But if you guys ever do something, please let us know. And
Yeah, that started about more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
started
to say
doing
that it's probably been going on a minute, huh?
It has been, but I just never thought we would do anything like that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I just...
Is it because this was so much fun that entered like a more, hold on, this I don't know if I want to deal with that type of stress. This is our
Well,
fun place type
there's
of.
that.
That makes sense.
I want to have a simple, good life, but also I think developer was a dirty word to me. You know?
yeah,
To be honest.
I never pictured myself exactly doing that. But
We kind of got into it because there was someone who was in the process of developing this land, and he came to us and he said, you know, I've got this project going and you've got community. Why don't we get together? And I was kind of like, I'm going surfing, bye. But John got together with them and talked with them
and walk through it.
and explored it as he is good John. And then he came and got me and he was like, you have to see this. And then I got like the hooks in my heart, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you felt it.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it went from I'm scared of that to hold on, let me look at it. And then you felt it, which is it's kind of symbolic of our conversation from earlier. That's what we
Yeah.
need everybody to do.
Yeah.
If you're scared about something in the area, go explore it, look into it, fall into it, and check it out. And that's a great example.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about fear, I don't know if you know this, how we got into the hotel. I'm just going to tell it anyway, because it was just so part of how to look at where we're at right now. I had a lot of fear about Nosara growing because I'm from Miami originally. My mom was born and raised there, and Miami was a small town when she was a kid.
Dirt roads.
Yeah, she lived what you would consider heart of Miami now. She had chickens and horses and went into town once a week for dinner and that kind of thing. And so it can happen fast, and I'm just well aware of that. And, like we all have, I fell in love with this place early on, and I could see things starting to change, and I was really fretting about it. And I kept talking to John about it. This is early days here. And he would say this thing to me that I couldn't quite understand at first, which was, it's probably going to grow, it's going to change, because that's the nature of things. It's going to change. The question is, how does it change? How does it grow? And that took me a little while for that to sink in. This was like a conversation we had over probably 2 weeks. And I eventually got to the point, it was like, okay, I accept that. You're right. It is going to change because everything does. So how do we influence how it changes? And John said, well, there's probably a handful of properties here that whatever happen. Have you heard this? Okay.
Keep going.
All right. There's probably a handful of properties here, and whatever happens on those are going to influence
disproportionately.
Yeah, disproportionately influence what's going to happen here. And so, logical next question, well, what are those properties? And the first one he mentioned was the Nosara Yoga Institute, which was already bringing yogis.
Now Bodhi Tree
area.
Yeah,
now it's Bodhi Tree, and it's still like a yoga / health and wellness draw, but that's such an important influence. He brought up the gilded iguana in the heart of North Guiones, and he was sort of pondering, and right at that moment, Rick Walker came running into the restaurant we were in, and he was like, oh my gosh, guys, the Villa Taipei is for sale. You guys should buy it. And John was like, yeah, I would say that's probably the other third biggie right there. And that's how we got into the hospitality business. It was not like either one of us went to hospitality school.
It was a really big decision and it came out of our love for Nosara. And we were like, how are we going to love Nosara?
Yeah.
There's a cool Chinese saying, which is like, if you want to change the course of a mighty river, you have to walk far enough upstream and you can put your hand in. And so there was like, okay, what would happen? And, we had to take a moment and be all like, both because it was like getting a hotel, that's a big deal. And then also, we were, a new marriage, and you hear about like couples divorcing over the paint color of their house or something. So it was like, and it ended up being a fantastic experience for us. Our marriage, it was like, it brought us closer together.
We talk about like the whole Reese's peanut butter cup model, like where you got your chocolate and my peanut butter. Well, you got your peanut butter and my chocolate. And that kind of was how we got through that. And this is actually pretty good together. So that's how we got through that.
Wow. That's a pretty cool story.
Thank you.
You met, bonded, went on with your lives, and then reconnected further over it. So the story keeps going.
And part of the reason I'm telling that story right now is I'm also thinking about, what do we do right now in Nosara? How do we think? And I think that my dear husband is very good at rising up and taking the long view and being strategic from that place, which is the hand in the river analogy. And it's what he did for me at that moment, is he kind of got me out of that, like, oh my God, that tight, like, is it going to change? How can I keep it from changing? Which is, of course, impossible, to thinking about, how can how can we influence things in the right direction? And, you know, there's a lot of like, I could go on and on about things we think about that way, and a lot of joys that it has ended up bringing along too.
So way back when with the hotel, we were asking ourselves, okay, well, what kind of hotel would we want to stay in? And that's when, and you know, we had the management company in, and that's when we were like, well, how about like really good Wi-Fi, but no TVs and no sodas? And they were like, you guys are crazy. and I was like, and no advertising. And they're like, okay, remember when we said you were crazy before?
Can you make that squared?
Now you're, but it was really important to us, just along the lines of like, how do we give back? Because there was this idea, you know, the community, that hotel books up over the holidays, sometimes 3 years in advance. And that is built on friendships. There are people, it's spread by word of mouth. And there are people who come back year after year and see each other. And that's the community of the hotel. So we have this incredible like repeat guest. So it was, you know, it was a little bit of a hit in the beginning. That was definitely a nail biter, but what a wonderful payoff. And
did this start about 2005-ish when you're rolling, or 2004? Is that the time frame you were discussing? Because I'm interested to know how long it took for the snowball to gather before you were like, everybody relieved. You were like, okay, this was good. All right, this is good. This is okay. Like, at what year in that time frame?
He doesn't bite his nails. I bit my nails a little bit. But at the same time, I actually will say I did have a lot of faith. And like you were saying before, like, I don't need to tell people to come to Nosara. I think we already felt that way. I mean, I know I wasn't.
But what year was it for you?
It's ironic that what year was what?
What you were just saying, I just wanted to catch what time frame when you felt that way.
Okay, so when we felt that it was all rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're like, Nosara's going to catch.
This
is going to happen.
Well, it wasn't Nosara's going to catch. I would have been perfectly happy without Nosara catching, to be totally honest.
I think everyone actually kind of feels that way. Much to people might not know that.
Yeah.
When I moved here, it had not caught. I just wanted to find a way to get by.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
That was it.
Exactly.
So you guys wanted to find a way to help protect the place and keep enjoying it, right?
Yes.
So when did you feel that it was gonna? All right, this is gonna happen.
I guess we always had faith that it would work out. You know, I talk about being a nail biter, but we did always have faith it would work out, or we wouldn't have made that call. And I would say a point that I remember of being like, oh, is when we first started out, we're like, we're not advertising, and, you know, our friends knew it was there and they would come and maybe they would tell friends. And then there was, I remember someone coming up to John, I love this place and I'm going to tell all my friends. And John was like, don't, just tell your best friend.
That's a good line. That's a good line. Just tell your best friend.
Yeah, and it's true. And I think it still holds.
We actually had someone, a longtime guest, tell us that at his 50th birthday party, you know, like people traveled to see him, and of the like 8 people at this dinner, 6 of them were people he had met at the hotel.
Man, what a testimony.
Yeah.
That had to feel good.
It's definitely a good friend maker there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, is it went from kind of our friends and our friends of our friends to its own thing a long, long time ago now.
It's like once you have no TVs and no sodas, then this whole stream of people coming at your hotel and looking at it are going to self-select. And some people are going to be like, oh no, I've got to have my daily Diet Coke. They're going to, you know, like, or
my rum and Coke.
Or my rum, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're going to have that someplace else. Like if they really need to have it, be at the place that has that. that's, and then the folks who are like, sweet, I don't have to have this battle with my kid over TV
Or over a Coke.
or over a Coke.
Yeah.
And then there's that a little bit of that clumping, and then I think that helps create new friendships, and because there's some commonality.
It seems like you guys, well, Nosara itself, there was a forced social interaction in a way. Once you were here, you're already here.
Yeah.
So you're going to interact,
Yeah.
you're going to bounce off people, and the place is sticky.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not a super experienced traveler like you guys. Is there any other place that's as sticky as this? Because my ticket in was when Surf Nosara was starting a vacation rental business. Like that was my entry, was to do that. And people would come through from all over the place. And well, one demographic was, it's not nice enough to bring my wife out. I don't have a spot to put my wife. This was just as you guys were getting up. And then when you guys got going, you were always booked. So we didn't have the vacation rental houses quite at the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I got the idea. I was like, everyone's selling the same old construction. There's not that many hotels.
Yeah.
Like we need the houses. So we sold lots to build houses. And then when people could bring their families back, that's about the time the local private schools had gotten going.
Yeah.
Shout out, big
That was a game
huge
changer.
advance. Shout out Delmar
Big
for
game
leading the
changer.
way.
Yeah.
And then others since then. So for me, when I thought it was like, wait, it's going to catch, this is going to happen, it's when people started coming back with their family year after year who normally went all over the place. And then they're like, you know what? Let's take a year off. I need a spot where my kids will be okay. And that's when I saw us, in my mind anyway, break away from kind of sanitary Semi Place area.
Yeah.
Us, we kind of went, I feel, more family oriented. You're more boring client, quite frankly.
Yes.
We don't. We're
Wonderful.
not. You see what I'm saying? I felt that, and that was around 2012, 13 was when I was like, this might happen. Then by 14, 15, well, I guess when I paddled you in the water, I was like, you got to buy Harbor Reef before this other company does, because somebody was going to buy it and create just a carnival of stuff. So much testament to you guys. You truly do act. You don't say that many public words, but your actions behind the scenes are actually there.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks.
Well, don't thank me. I'm just thrilled to have you here, because people finally get to hear a voice and the story and your emotions and where your intentions are coming from. And for me, I base everything based off intentions. If someone wrongs me, but they meant well, or they were aiming on something good, I actually can deal with that okay. It's when someone's intentions are off and they truly meant something, I really struggle with that.
Yeah.
So I think most of the people who dislike you and me, without knowing any of us, they dislike the idea of the fear.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to eradicate that. That's a big part of the podcast. I'm having people on constantly so people can hear a voice. And if people ever really have something to say negative, that's fine. At least base it off facts, though.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Just going back for a sec to, what you asked us before on what we're working at now, that we ended up having this transition where the hotel was going pretty well. And then this developer comes to us and is like, hey, I love what you guys did. Will you come be partners over here? And this is the Bosque. This is, so like when I went into it, I was like, oh my God, there is this incredible swath of forest left here right by the ocean. Which
Even some hills?
kind of blew my mind. And some hills.
Yeah.
And that was another really big, like the hotel, really big step for us. Something we did not take lightly, where we were like,
Yeah. We feel tremendous responsibility.
yeah.
It's neat for people to hear what you're saying right now, because prior to ever doing this, there was various people thinking you guys had developments planned everywhere, and this was a whole big, huge scheme. But the actual truth is, you didn't plan to buy a hotel.
They don't know what spacey surfers we really are.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's whoa.
Yeah, and also like whoa for more than one. Like it's a lot to take something like this on.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot. I'm not saying I won't eventually do another thing after this, but I'm always just like, can we just go surfing?
Yeah.
I'm going to say something else about it. When John got me to go, because like I said, I was kind of like, I'm not even interested in having the conversation. When he got me to come look at the land and the trees, it really touched something in me that I think you might relate to since you've been here a long time. When I first came to Nosara, I stayed in the North Guiones area. I didn't have a bike, I didn't have a car, and I would walk everywhere. And I would sometimes walk all the way to Cafe Paris from North Guiones, back roads. And when I say all the way, it didn't seem like that long, but so much of it was forest. And that is, when I say I get having to mourn and grieve, I had moments, there were spots that when they went, I was like, oh, I can think of, I've often thought about writing a book. There's like that famous people I've known. Mine would be like beautiful trees I've known.
Oh, geez, that would be a sad cemetery book from here in recent years. But we also have to, like you said, we have to squeeze it back in.
Yeah. And so when I saw this beautiful property right up against K section, I was like, I know what might happen here. And so it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, to say like, oh, we kind of have to do this. That's kind of how I felt. That's a weird thing to say.
This place has a weird way of forcing you guys to do the exact opposite of what you were thinking, but you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it keeps working.
Yeah. Well,
is that right?
Godfather.
I hope so. I mean, I really hope so. Yeah. So one of the great things that we're no longer, we started off doing this as a partnership, or else I don't think I would have had the guts to get into it.
Well, give us the update as we record this. Peak high season 2024.
Yeah.
You guys it's very visible. People are out there. I've already started talking about it on the little This Week in Nosara videos I do. It's there. So give us the synopsis. Like, give us the.
Well, one of the great things about it is it comes with basically a kind of zoning. It comes with a horizontal condominium, which is, just a way of saying you can create guidelines here. And that means that we can make agreements about how we're going to live.
What are some of the more interesting ones that would catch people's attention, like that you guys have put in there?
An agreement that we're going to preserve
the forest.
The forest. You're basically buying a home site in the forest.
You're going back in time to North Guiones back in the day and recreating what you can from it right now.
Yeah.
To keep it that way for the next generation. And you're basically proving through your actions exact opposite of what people might say or negatively, is that you guys are just here to take over, and obviously you're not, because you already could have a million times over, and you haven't. And now that you had an opportunity to do something you weren't thinking, you're actually doing it for protectorate measure. And it's also not, I can say this from a guy in the industry, it's not an easy sale. It's not for everyone. It's special.
It's not for everyone.
So I use this platform to kind of cover some of the heavy hitter items, because I think it's worthy of note. Like, you guys could make this far more profitable. You really could.
But we want it to be something that,
just like with the Harmony. We were like, what's the neighborhood we'd want to live in?
Yeah.
Well, right. So I'm trying to get you to describe some of your interior.
Okay.
Let's start with the vehicles, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk us through like that type of stuff. What gets you
natural.
Yeah. So one thing about this land is it's part of it opens into K section. The other part of it touches 160 in Esperanza. And on that side, it's like, that road, it's loud, it's fast, it's loud. But there's this ridge that runs parallel to that towards the front of the property. So on one side, it is noticeably quieter. And that's something that when we were just walking the land and getting to know it, it was very apparent, and it was something that we were appreciating. And so we were kind of inspired to keep it quiet. And like I said, I used to walk everywhere and I love to walk. So it was like, how can we keep this super serene? So we're keeping the cars out there on that side of the ridge.
So the cars, people are parking on the loud side of the hill.
Yeah. People
Okay.
are parking on the outside the hill. Then you can get on a golf cart, an electric golf cart, or you can get on a bike, or you can walk, and you come into where everyone's living. And you can flow right out of there down to the beach, just down the back. It's like we call it the back entrance, but I have a feeling it's going to be the front entrance before we know it, because I think that is like the way in and out that people are going to use. And
So
down to the
basically, you're
beach.
EV living, and then if you need to go to Nicoya, or you want to do an early surf in Austin Hall, you can hop into your car and go do that. But like everything else, you can kind of do right with an EV. So and it's quiet. It's we were imagining like kids being able to run and
That's a
bike
big one.
around, and like that's the kind of neighborhood feel we're looking for.
Can I take a shot at a 30-second
Yeah.
version of it?
yeah,
All right. So in Bosque, we have a walking, biking, nature-oriented, easy access to beach without the traffic, but your kids can go around safely. You can
Yeah.
enjoy yourself. You do have access to your car, but you're going to take an electrical vehicle of some sort to it, and you can still go wherever you want. But the reality is, once you're here, most of life's right over there, and the beach is that way.
yeah.
Do you have experience in media and communications? Because yeah.
And
That's it, right? It sounds pretty good. Like I said.
and restaurants, like, I mean, it's just amazing what all you can do here pretty close without having to travel very far.
Yeah.
Man, let's talk about restaurants for a second, just for a second,
Yeah.
since you brought it up. There's a bunch,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of options here.
It's amazing. That we have so many restaurants, and just the other day I was outside of Blue Garza and looking at their bulletin boards, and so many, I don't know how to say it, healing modalities. I just was kind of blown away by all the offerings that I just saw tacked up there. It's really amazing, and I think a very special time here.
I agree.
A very special
I
time.
agree.
There was even the bondage workshop. I was just picturing like a friend of ours like, hello, this is the bondage workshop. We need somebody here right away.
Hey, do you go to ecstatic dance before or after the bondage workshop?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So, what
I'm
a cool
fan of
town.
ecstatic dance.
Yeah,
I am. I
Yeah.
started off being like, what is this? And now I'm totally into it.
Maybe we'll do that for next podcast episode. But
No filming me doing ecstatic dance. No. But I'm just saying, I mean, this place has an effect on you. It changes you.
It's sticky.
yeah,
It is sticky. It is
yeah.
sticky. I actually, I was thinking, like, if there was any place stickier, I think we'd be there. That I knew of. Yeah, or
Sure.
that we knew of.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I did one of my rich rants earlier when I was describing kind of the timing as I saw it. By
Mm-hmm.
2012,
Yeah,
13, I was like,
yeah.
okay, it caught. Then by 15, I already knew.
Yeah.
So that's when everything completely changed. Google was out. Everyone knew where everything was.
Yeah.
Surfing is all over the place.
Yeah.
Information's flying. Social media had ignited.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized I saw the end there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just how do we go about it? My gospel, if I can call it that,
Yeah.
it's let's keep the lineup calm. It's a
Mhm.
soft wave. A lot of
Yeah.
people are learning. Let's keep the lineup calm because my first entry to the town was Honkial, Playa Negra, then Marbella, Avianes. It got much thicker. It got more
Yeah.
intense. And I'm from Florida. As soon as we get waves, we're freaking out.
Yes.
Especially
Yeah.
when I lived in South Florida. That was the
Yeah.
snippiest place.
Freaking out is right.
Like
Yeah.
Lake Worth Pier and
Yeah.
like Stewart and
Yeah.
those are pretty places. I'm not trying to dog them out, but they're not here. And I want to keep here calm. So if I
Yes.
can't keep people away,
Yeah.
which isn't going to happen anyway.
We need a Pura Vida
Yeah, how do we?
right in the lineup.
Yeah.
We need to have that attitude. You know, it's a lot of it is like how we think, what we value. I mean, you know, we all have our moments of like having death-defying moments while trying to surf, and someone's launching themselves like right at you in your critical moment. And I do think a calm, constructive response is always the best long-term investment.
You're so right. The locals here have been so good.
Yeah.
Like hands down, the locals from here, I don't even know how to describe it. I've never seen it anywhere, not a single spot. On the East Coast, West Coast, look at Florida, California, anywhere, the Carolinas, Virginia, even Europe, Hawaii, the Caribbean, just go down the list, Mexico. There's no place like here. I've seen people, heck, I'll give a shout out like to Nelson, for example. I've seen Nelson go to people who were starting stuff and be like, no, this is guiones. Settle down or get out of here. And I've seen other people. So instead of it going the other way, it means the world to me. Like it means so much to me.
I'm getting chill bumps as you say that. I couldn't agree with you more.
Like, I don't know how it happened, but it did. And I wish, well, my only prescription for it is putting wave pools everywhere.
Yeah.
Because the lineups, it gets intense, and the more surfing gets popular, it's not getting less popular. It's not getting less fun. Like, it's out there.
Well,
you know what I mean?
The other thing, though, is a lot of people who come here now. I mean, it used to be like, you wouldn't really meet people who came here who weren't surfers. I mean, a little bit of the yogi community started out, but now as that's flourished, I think there's a lot of people who come here for yoga or like all those healing modalities that I was just talking about. I mean, it's like a mecca for that right now.
It is. I can fill you in from the business side. The people who are coming in and making purchases right now, most of them are not diehard surfers or diehard yogis. It used to be, I guess, mid-90s, Wave seemed like it caught. Wave was kind of discovered, so that got going. Then the Yoga Institute got started. Let's give a shout out to the Yoga Institute.
Yes.
Donna Nalma.
Just,
Thank you.
rest in peace, Don.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good gosh. But they had a beautiful system of how they got people to come back. So when they did the ranking of you came down to get your training, your certification, you come back the next year and you keep the journey going. And then people brought people, and it was kind of like a multi-level, beautiful system of flowing the people they wanted in.
That's cool.
And by having a goal to shoot for, they'd come back the next year. And then over the years, some of the surf schools did that.
Actually.
Look at Surf Simply. And now look at some of the local schools that are starting to employ. It's brilliant. And it gives people hope. It's something to shoot for. So you go back as this and you want to come back because I want to get to that. And then they think about it, and I just love it.
Well, that's so interesting because I wonder if they were even thinking of it as I'm trying to get people to come back.
I don't know if they were or not.
Just like generously offering.
I would like to know that. I just learned that was the case through so many clients because they come back every year.
Yeah.
And then they brought these friends, they brought those friends, and they were growing. And then people would go back and grow their practices. And then yoga went from being this scary thing in the States for us religious types. And now everyone kind of got into it.
So it wasn't just the harmony. It's like all these places are growing through these friendships.
Yes.
Yeah.
The early days of it.
And people connecting to this place and loving it. Like, I think that's really like people came here to do yoga and then they were like, this is great.
You meet interesting people.
And, you know, I just had this really, well, for me, you talk to a lot of people about this kind of thing, but for me it was really surprising conversation because I'm a nature lover. That's part of why I'm here. And I'm a surfer. Those are the two initial things that got me here. And I remember thinking, if you were neither of those things, why would you come here? And then it's like, okay, well, if you're into yoga, I get it. You come here for yoga, surfing, or nature. And then, like I said, it's like a healing mecca. So that's grown out. Okay, so you come here for that, surfing or nature. And then I was talking to this woman recently who's like, yeah, I don't surf, I'm not an ocean person, not that much of a nature person. And then I was like, really? Okay. Not into yoga. And so I was just like, why are you here? Why are you here? And she was like, you know, it just feels really sane to me. It just feels really like the pace I want my life to be at.
Did you say sane, S-A-N-E or S-A-F-E? I want to know.
SANE.
Really sane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, instead of safe. Well, I hope she feels safe too. But
It
sane.
depends. Well, these days it depends on where you're at
Yeah.
in town. And
Yeah.
goodness gracious, so she does none of those. And yes, I do talk to that person almost daily.
And I used to not really see that person.
They didn't used to be
They
here.
didn't used to be here, and so yeah, I was pretty interested in that whole thing. And again, it's like something you loved brought you here, and now we have to really be thoughtful about how to preserve it.
I've never seen a place where more people care. Like, and again, most of the negative stuff, even against anyone visible or influential, it's generally well intended.
Yeah.
It's generally well intended.
Yeah.
I think we just need to keep finding ways to strengthen the community. I think that's the connectedness of everybody.
Elaborate on that a bit, like forecast, like what's going through your head as you say that.
Well, I think that's the other thing that that's the thing that people would go to the Harmony Hotel for. They weren't just going to a hotel at a sweet surf break. They were going because when they landed and walked in, it felt like family. And I think there's that connection. And like you were saying earlier, we can, those of us living here for a while, you get in your donkey trail and you can miss making new connections and reminding yourself that and I'm very much this way, it's like I have my routine. We have 3 kids, we've got a routine, but finding new ways to strengthen those connections with everyone. And in a way, the Cayo Medalla helped that, in that there were these partnerships. That was a public-private partnership. Those was strengthening connections. And I think we're just going to keep looking for new ways to do this. So I think there's a project. I can't say a ton about it right now, not because it's secret, but more like because it's just early days, but like public transportation. Let's have some great public transportation and figure out a way to do that and do it right. Figure out a way where it's going to help people who live in Nosara Pueblo and are coming in for jobs in Guiones, or live in Garza and are coming in for jobs. It's reaching them, and like powered.
Take it to a new level
Financially by tourists.
Yeah.
You think that we'll turn into more of a walking on the Proyecto side or on this side, because the pathways are getting better?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like when I got here,
Imagine.
they were fighting and they were locked up, and now I rode a bike from the office to over in Pilata. It was like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
It was great.
And beautiful the whole way.
It was amazing. So anyway, I didn't mean to get sidetracked on my biking story.
This is it. It's like how do we
love
strengthen
that.
community? And just to go back to the Bosque for a second, that was one of the things that you normally say, that I love that you say, which is like, we were, normally.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you would have to, when you went to a place like this, you'd be out in nature, but you'd be missing community. You'd be missing engagement with the world of ideas. Or you'd have to choose, like you'd have to go live way out in the boonies, and then you would come into town to see your friends or go to a restaurant. And so what we were trying to do there was, how do you...
I think...
She has a nice way of putting it.
Now I'm like, how do I say it? I think that it's
like community out your front door and nature out your back door.
Yeah, we were kind of like, how do we put these two things together? Where you're usually having to choose, am I going to be down right by the beach, be able to go to restaurants, be able to be in the scene, but not necessarily be able to have your rhapsodizing in nature moment. And we're trying to make this thing where you both have that easy bump into your neighbor you're getting community, and you're getting your quiet nature moment out the back door where you're looking into the woods, and you are. When I said you're buying a home site more than a lot, 75% of that property is to be kept as
nature.
woods. Yeah.
So it's like a really community focused thing, and I think that goes for that. But I think that's what we just could benefit a lot from over Nosara generally is
Yeah.
more way. We figured out a way to do it there with the built environment because we had like in terms of situating homes and things like that. But there are all kinds of other ways we can do it, like with these public-private partnerships, public transportation that's going to bring us together in terms of like making it happen, but also bring us together in terms of like, hey,
We're getting around
you caught
together.
yeah, exactly.
I see what you're saying.
And I think that's gonna. And then the last thing is, I think there are other small towns that are also confronting these challenges, and some of them are finding really cool solutions. And so I think looking out there and seeing where other people have had real successes or innovated something, I think it is something we can do.
Are there any that you can think of you could recommend while we have the platform that help unify the cultures from the people that from the, I call it behind the trees. Like the real Nosara is kind of back over there, and most of our guests stay over here, right?
Yeah.
So if we don't have education systems and transportation and a way for the people from here to succeed, to be able to get a job at the higher end institutions, you see what I'm saying? Like do you have any models that you've seen that you recommend that you guys can point out? I just kind of live here and just talk to everyone from here.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is going on out in the world that maybe we could point to. You see what I'm saying?
I can give a few things.
Please do.
I mean, there's the whole new urbanism movement where you probably know.
No, please explain it.
Okay, the new urbanism movement is something that, well, I have my criticisms of the new urbanism movement too, but it's like, let's live closer together and preserve more lands around us and make it easy to go walk. I think one of the things that is very pleasantly surprising to me is to find out how walkability is so valued. I love walking, and I don't really enjoy getting in my car, but I do because I drive into town. But everything we can do to support that walking flow, I think we should. And you've been giving a lot of shout outs as we've been having this conversation. The people who stewarded the trail system, wherever, I'm grateful to you, wherever they are. And I know some of them.
Yeah.
I'm almost like afraid to say their names because I know I'd be leaving people out, but I'll say the two people. Peter Kelly, I know, was big in that. And I also know that my niece Malone, who really, Malone Matson, she really helped me. Well, actually, I have to say she's the one who kind of was like, why don't you guys make this no cars in here in this part of the Bosque?
So she's the no soda lady.
She got me, she got me to go to a walkability workshop she ended up getting her graduate degree at Harvard, and which we're all very proud of. And she got me to go to a walkability synopsim. That's how I know about symposium. That's how I know what new urbanism is. It's from that weekend program. But walkability is valuable, and I always thought like I'm just a weirdo who values it. And one thing that this community here, like I really love this community. Growing up in Miami, thought that I valued things that no one else valued. I always thought I was just like a kind of weirdo, one-off. And in this...
It could be both, maybe.
Well, here, this is a community for people like that. But I just feel like, I'm not the only one who values things like walkability.
Well, it also for people whose first thoughts go to their pocketbook, it also increases the value of real estate. That's
And you know, how valuable would it be for you to feel like you could let your children out the door
yes.
and not be afraid of them?
I always
Getting
regretted
run over.
not getting something in Guiones Beach Club in the early days. I just didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Because in Guiones, it really got tense. Like right now, look at the trucks.
Yeah.
Like the trucks, sometimes if they don't want to go over to Cayo Medella, then they got to go over to K.
Yeah.
And then we have issues over there.
Yeah.
And we're always going to have these challenges, right? But that's where, quite frankly, that's where Bosque comes in, because that's just not available. Where we're at right now, we're at the top of a hill in Pilata,
Yeah.
but we're on the edge. Like that's all nature reserve.
Yes, it is. This is a really cool little spot. But I was thinking how, like, you know, to be strategic in that way, to find a little nook is harder and harder.
Well, you guys picked up the last big chunk of land that you guys could do exactly kind of what you're saying. Now I'm understanding the urbanism. A lot of the stuff's making sense to me now.
I would go around. I'm from Florida. I've seen a lot of developments. Most of them are heartbreaking because I also love Florida. I love it. It's beautiful. And it's heartbreaking what's happened in many places in Florida. And then there's like other places where you're like, they did it right here. And
Give it. What do you mean by that?
Just being thoughtful about, I guess one is Sanibel Island, being thoughtful about how they're going to live. So I don't know if they allowed chains in there. I haven't been there in a long time. But if they do, like signs are very discreet. Oh my God. I would love it if we could adopt more of that here in Nosara. We've got so many signs along the main road, and I question how helpful they are. And I love just looking at the landscape here.
Listen, you're breaking rule number 1, Susan, of living in Nosara, which for me is don't make sense. You gotta settle down with that. Like some things we're not gonna win. And some things we are, right?
Yeah.
So if we're gonna win on those flavor-oriented non-soda or non-electric cars, you gotta find other like-minded people that fall into that.
Yeah.
So you guys were able to do that with the Harmony.
Yeah.
You're about to attempt it with Bosque.
Yep.
How do we do that with people who are from a completely different other setup? Like how do we still get all boats to float while different backgrounds, different camps that we're in? Like how do we kind of get that to flow? For me, I think it's education and skill sets of the locals.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Because otherwise, like you guys, was it Cayuga you guys hired, which you had to.
Yeah.
That wasn't because you were like, hey, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Let's hire
we
Cayuga.
had to hire them. And they were great. And you know what? They are super committed to hiring local.
So that's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
That has spawned a new generation of people, like your Marahus and your Cookies, and people are going on to do amazing things out there. Yeah. So I see that as something more of that. Like how do we keep that going?
A couple things about where you were starting to go. I think there's some great ideas and initiatives in the community that are trying to look for all sorts of how can we share opportunity and how can all the boats go up. And one element that I think is very special about Costa Rica in general is how strong the family unit is. And so I say, like, yeah, let's grow and create opportunity, but like opportunity for, I guess what I think it's great that so many local kids are going off to college now, because that wasn't really the case 15 years ago.
No, literacy. It was sixth grade level for females, and they couldn't get past it. It's still an issue, but it's a lot better.
Like in my memory. So it's like now there's a high school, there's continuing education beyond that here, and then there's kids going off to school in Liberia or San Jose. And I'm like, that is so great. And let's give those kids a future here, because we got to keep the families together. It's such a strong part of the fabric here.
So shout out to Cressy and Andres Fernandez, that they're doing exactly that, and we've been trying to help them, and I would like to help them more.
Emmanuel from Cressy and the Asadas, he's been coming on. We have a couple episodes that are in editing right now with him. When painted into a corner and asked what his number one thing of everything is, he says it's we need a census, like more than anything, because we can't get the funding from the governmental institutions. Like let's just use our Red Cross. Let's use the ambulance, for example.
Yeah.
I've had accidents before. I've had a couple, unfortunately, where we called 911 and they just never came.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because anyone was trying to be mean.
No,
It's just because they couldn't. So, but if we're ever going to get our bomberos completely self-funded, we have to pay for that. You guys pay for that. Like it's amazing and it's incredible, but we pay for it. If we're ever going to get governmental support, they have to have a count of the people in the area.
Yeah.
So if they have that, though, we can get monies directed this way, but there's no way we're going to get Nosara to become its own capital without having the accurate numbers. So we kind of have that bridge between us and Nicoya, which as the crow flies isn't short, but as the car drives, it's unpleasant.
Yeah.
So he says the census is like the number one thing to reset the foundation of the area.
Yes.
And then we can get tax monies that we actually could have access to that we currently can't get. And that takes a lot of the load off of people carrying the community and 50 plus NGOs. So he's boldly kind of walking into this saying, hey, listen, guys, we got to, he talks so soft. He's a very soft-spoken man.
Yeah.
He's like, if we get this, though, a lot of the money that we're paying for things self-willingly, you could redirect that into other things that the community needs. So I have a lot of respect for him, and I'm learning through hearing that type of stuff.
That sounds like a really wise step. And, you know, you've talked a lot about like stages of what it's been like here. And I appreciate, by the way, you're even being able to pull dates out. That is not something either of us can do. But I feel like, okay, this community is evolving and changing. And we go through these different stages. And right now, I think what we're all talking about here is we're in a stage of how are we going to come together? How are we going to come together in a better way? There was a certain amount of, you had to do it on your own at one point. Like if you didn't just start doing it, it wasn't going to get done.
Yeah.
But things have changed. And that's, you know, that's a good thing overall. Let's meet that. And I think that's the next thing is like, how are we going to figure out how to come together? Because if we really come together, we can also think more holistically, I think. With the growth is always going to be new challenges. And so how do we address these new challenges? I feel like you've been asking that again and again. And another thing I think that is important is to raise up and take the long view. And the long view goes with holistic thinking.
Can you talk me through the holistic thinking part so I understand?
So I'm just like right now, you were talking earlier about water shortages, which many people will say is an infrastructure problem. Or people talk about water quality issues in the ocean. Both of these are two parts of a very important overall whole system. So I think that we need to care for it from the very beginning to the very end, which is really a circle. And that is taking care of our aquifer. Like if you don't have water, what do you have? You know, you have nothing. So we've got to care for the aquifer. And it's not just, can we make our infrastructure stronger to get water to houses? Yes.
To extract water from it. We want to like how can our infrastructure help us replenish it?
So outside of the systems that were on the podcast, we talk about that a lot. Shout out to Dr. Edgeworth, who comes on and fusses at everybody. And he just launched the No Shit Nosara campaign that you'll see flying around. That guy.
Saw that.
He's not messing around.
Okay. I have to learn more.
Oh, geez. He's been on here like 5, 6 times. He says all the stuff that nobody's willing to, and he does not hold back. Like he lets it fly. So one of the things that he goes through, I mean, it's very humbling. I guess for all of us in a way, we were trying to block resorts, big hotels, widespread development, and that's always been the thing. Everyone's kind of unified on that. Where at his point, and him of all people, it surprised him too.
Yeah.
He explained to me, Rich, we kind of got it wrong. What happened was the hotels that came in are doing better than everyone. When Gilded launched, everyone like Nosara's gone. Well, they did a better water treatment system than we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
When Bodhi went and did theirs, they did a better system. Even Become Nosara and Esperanza that you guys drive by whenever you come in town, which everyone was so mad about. They said horrendous things about that man. And all types of stuff. They have a better water treatment system.
Yeah.
Where we messed up was we have so many on tight lots, multi-units.
Yeah.
And we have septic systems for 2, 4, 6, or a family of 3 or even a 4-bedroom worth of people. And then we stacked it with Airbnb rentals and to the hilt. So we're using old septic systems and we're pegging it. And the laws in Costa Rica just say this, but at Nosara, if we really don't want to no shit Nosara, pardon the cursing, we got to pay attention to this. So that's his ardent. He's like, all right, I gave a couple years.
Fantastic.
I'm now going out. I'm speaking as him. I don't want to do that. I'm scared. I don't want to get shot. Oh, let him speak as himself.
Yeah.
He's now saying everyone who stays in a rental rated as 1 star if they haven't upgraded their system because he feels that it's unethical.
Yeah.
It
He
is
feels
unethical,
so he's like really pounding that drum.
Fantastic.
And it's nice, whether you agree with him or not, it's nice to see someone speaking their mind and taking a stand on something that they're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really smart.
So his thing is, if you make money, if you have a rental and you haven't upgraded your system, I'm coming for you. That's what he's basically saying. The whole community's been saying it publicly.
Fantastic.
So agree or disagree, at least he's speaking from his heart.
So like, how can we come together? Like, comes back again for me. Like, you talk about, yes, at the hotel, we are able to have our whole cyclical water treatment situation. And we can do that at the Bosque because we're going to have.
Well, that's another
neighbors working
example.
together.
People are driving by right now. Look at that big development.
Yeah.
Oh. The reality is it's going to be better than what's around here. And we also, the laws that we do have, they're very hard to enforce.
Yeah.
Nicoya doesn't have the capacity to come out here. So, I mean, obviously we need a zoning plan. That's a whole other subject.
Well, and by the way, I get it that people just make assumptions that it's going to be terrible because sadly, it's done wrong so often in the world. I'm not talking about any one place in particular, but like I said, I'm from Florida. I've seen
Also,
it done
North
wrong.
Guiones. Let's go to here. Your walk from North Guiones to
it's changed.
over. It's different. So
it's different.
the morning is real. The morning's well intended. I didn't see it coming like the way Edgeworth says.
Yeah.
He was like, while we were looking over there blocking this, it snuck in with us. And now he pulls up the Airbnb DNA data and he pulls it up and we go through it every couple months. He comes on the podcast. He's about to come back on and he gives us his updates. But much like the Bomberos take care of us, they're the ones who showed up when I had my recent head injury, and coordinated everything. And then it was the private ambulance. Thank God for Paradise Medical for getting me to San Jose. Like that was we did that, right?
Yeah.
You know what would be interesting would be if, and this isn't in Cresse's mandate, so I'm not suggesting Cresse has a different focus and they need to stick with their focus. But it would be interesting if somebody put together a lending body to lend to these homeowners to redo their septic system, right? So
Are you saying like basically financing for
financing
septic
for upgrading the septic system?
I've never had that thought.
You know, that's something that could, I wonder.
Here's another thought. What if, this is just coming up, okay? So what if there was some sort of even better deal you could get if you got in with your neighbors?
We're trying that now.
Because because there is a certain kind of economy of scale here if you come together and you create a system that could
It definitely brings
serve-
costs down. It definitely brings costs down. The issue is ownership and future ownership if you sell. So a very cooperative
Yeah.
You guys can do it in Bosque.
Yeah.
We
We are
We
doing
are-
it at Bosque.
we
Let's
are
be
doing
clear
it.
about that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so let me restate that. You are doing it in Bosque.
Yeah.
We can't. It's harder to get other people to cooperate.
So you incentivize them to cooperate. You incentivize. So maybe that's where the lending institution comes in, which is we're going to reward people who are cooperating.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if banks in Costa Rica actually were loaning to people at better rates who were doing the right thing?
That would be fantastic. You're just breaking up rule number 1 again. You keep making sense.
But
That would be awesome.
I feel like you say it's rule number 1, but I think that wondering about things, being curious about them, and asking why don't we do it that way?
Well, for the bank, it would
is a
be
very
more of
important
what
thing
you're
to do.
saying. It would be people who would contribute to something that can function as a bank. So if a bank that answers based off profitability,
Yeah.
it would have to be a ancillary side project, which would be very
You're
difficult.
right. Step 1, it would have to be that. But
There's no reason that can't
I'm just
happen.
going to pull back for a minute and talk about Costa Rica in general and Costa Rica's role in the world and what Costa Rica stands for in the world. And when I do that, it's what do people think when they think Costa Rica? They think biodiversity. They see a GDP that has risen at the same arc as land preservation has risen and even reforesting has risen. So why, on a whole systemic level, why aren't banks actually supporting that more here? It seems to be a winning formula.
I don't know.
I know I'm just...
She's good. Oh, I didn't say it's not a great thing. I'm saying unifying
Hey, I know...
unifying people's hard, even in our small little high school.
Well, that's why
town.
that's
Yeah.
financial incentive.
That makes sense. If you
Yeah.
incentivize people financially, it makes sense. It's just basically it's generally the answer always comes back to is there profit in it, and it's not
Yeah.
profit in it. And you guys are two people who are doing your Nosara based actions not necessarily based off profit from the beginning to today. That's kind of what I'm getting out of this.
Yes, and I'm going to send this graph to you because I know you like to put images in that shows what I'm talking about because it's a very curious phenomenon.
You're 100% right on. Everyone thinks that. Some people listen. Here's what's going through my head.
Yeah.
Some people watching this podcast are like,
Yeah.
that guy works in real estate. Those
Yeah.
people have a hotel and they're developers and they're still at that negative
Yeah.
spot of.
Oh.
I'm
Yeah.
still just trying to get the community to open up to hear people out, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
So before
Yeah.
we can get everyone
Yeah.
to share septic
Yeah.
costs, there's a lot of levels to this whole thing.
I would love to. I'll save it for after, but I would love to actually talk to him and figure out what is the amount of capital that would if you had what's the ideal unit for a septic system for for Guiones? Is it 4 homes? Is it 6 homes? Is it where's the sweet spot?
Yeah.
And then what's the amount of capital that could be lent in a way that would really incentivize homeowners to make that switch? We should figure that out.
The interesting conversation, because he brings up when people say, why doesn't the whole town have a treatment system? Well, his point is, well, mathematically, and this just doesn't, this costs an incredible amount of money to do it for a very large area.
Yeah.
We've never talked about it by, say, section.
Yeah. Well, I like that better anyway, because, if you think about energy grid, it's better, I think, in the end, in terms of resiliency and security, to have distributed networks versus one central. You're gonna.
All right, so that's in your vein, because some people think, well, NCA, and you guys are affiliated with NCA, is whenever people hear treatment system, that's what we're saying. And some people are arguing against that. What you guys are saying is let's just explore this, even by small sections, and look into it.
There's a lot of different solutions being floated right now. And I think we need to, well, we want to act clearly.
Yeah,
sooner
and
rather
just to
than
be
later.
clear, I'm a total noob about this issue. I'm just like starting to think of like, what's a potential solution? I'm sure somebody's already thought of it.
In fact, I think that we're about to get to hear about a solution like that. And
That's great.
So, I mean, there's lots of different solutions. And yes, I did go to kind of, I know, like a far out dream about the banks, as I want to
But
do.
you gotta say it. You gotta put it out there. It's like we gotta keep saying that stuff so people are like, oh yeah, that's
And we've got to keep,
somehow that could be a possibility. Like, or it
Yes.
just like it ceases to be a possibility if you don't keep putting it out there.
We've had
Yes.
several times where, rest in peace, like Kevin Walker, one time,
Yeah.
I should probably you guys up. He's like, look, I pay $75,000 to help with this roads or to help with this. I just don't want to be the only one.
yeah.
So he's like, this is how it works. And again, I'll miss him forever. But
Mhm.
he caught my attention with that before he
Yeah.
passed. He's like, Rich, the way you guys are going to solve your stuff is you get enough people who truly are in it.
Yeah.
You just got to make them not feel alone.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's when he referenced, he was like, John, the issue with him, he has to be behind it all because he's nonstop hit. You guys can't take a step anywhere without someone thinking you guys just can solve everything if you felt like
know.
it.
Well, hey, I
And-
feel like it. I wish we could. That I'm actually wanted to say that because there's a couple of times where even you have assigned things to us that I was like, I don't think we have really tried hard to be thoughtful and strategic and do what we could to influence things. But if we had more control, as some people seem to assign to us, I mean, this would be paradise on earth as far as I'm concerned. It's close to it without intervention, but I would love to solve every problem. I would. I mean,
I get it. I believe
Yeah.
you. I was
Yeah.
going to make like a big communist joke because one time before I even knew you guys, somebody said you guys were plotting to take over Garza Point and turn it into this whole territorial type. There's,
like a what? I'm curious.
oh gosh, it's off the charts. I go on and on.
Yeah. No, I
So-
want to hear it. Come on.
Well, one was a secret project between Pilata and Guiones.
Yeah.
So that was a secret project.
Secret.
Yeah, which-
Secret what?
Which never
Pilata
existed.
and
It was a big
Guiones.
planned development. So then
Oh, wow.
initially that was supposed to be you guys, and then that rumor transferred to someone else later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Garza transferred over to you guys. But kids, high school was just
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
it was like.
Yeah.
Oh, again, that's the power of a podcast and a long form conversation. You
Yes.
guys have just touched on how many different things,
Yeah.
completely authentically, hearing your voice, don't see your mannerisms, and now somebody has a chance to know you. And if next time somebody wants to start some rumor, say some silly thing, hopefully they can get to this and they can at least start it at just a little higher level.
And they'll be like, there's no way those guys are organized to pull that off.
That's the truth right there. That's the truth. No
Yeah.
conspiracies are able to be between
To space cadets.
yeah, exactly. Between being too spacey and maybe being too much of a blabbermouth, I don't think we could pull off a true conspiracy.
Mm.
Well, we just debunked a big one just now. You guys aren't organized enough to pull off all your conspiracies.
I do want to keep going back to something though, because I really appreciate the questions you're asking about
Yeah.
the community and all of what's going on right now that needs attention. And I also, I told you a story about how John helped me kind of raise up out of the weeds and look at, how can we influence things? And then you asked me about being a holistic thinker. On that note of being a holistic thinker and not just thinking about how do we get water to homes and how do we take care of the ocean not getting polluted, I think if there's certain things, if we look at them, it used to be like these 3 properties. And I think the new version of that, this is hitting me right now, by the way, in this conversation. I think the new version is what are some key focus areas that
Yeah.
if we focus on them, it really affects the entire ecosystem. And by ecosystem, I mean
Including
social
people.
system
Yeah.
as well as the environment. And so I've been a firm believer for a long time. If we focus on care for the entire aquifer, we are going to be dealing with gray water and black water responsibly. And we are going to be thinking about what we are planting in our landscapes so that we're not overusing water. And that will help biodiversity.
And we're thinking about porous surfaces for aquifer replenishment,
It goes on and on.
maybe taking houses off the land like we're doing in the Bosque, so that, you know, that whole thing is going to be an aquifer replenishment sink, because like everything, the roads are porous, the houses are off.
So that's think of the whole aquifer. And when you care for the whole thing, you're going to solve all those problems. And I think that there's a couple of other big ones. And one of them is, I believe, women. I think caring for women and supporting women, and I mean this, I mean it across the boards, but I think I might mean it even especially about the long-term local community here. If women are safe and if they are able to care for their families like they want to, women, I think, tend to be
Smarter and better at things.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
I said that.
Well, I think that
Just generally better than men at most things.
yeah.
And thought and consideration. And,
But I think it goes everywhere, by the way, when I talk about it. I think it's like the women who are the grandmothers and who are, have that multi-generational view and who are caring for
the unifiers of holding it together, the
taking a
glue.
longer view. And I'm a big believer in listening to grandmothers.
Yeah.
And may I be one day, I hope, And I also just think if women feel safe, we all feel safe.
All right, so how do we do that here?
Well, I told you I was just talking off the cuff here, so
I like
need
it.
a little bit of a pause.
Well, take your pause. He
well,
brought
I
up a
think-
good idea earlier about treatment plants by section. I haven't thought of that. I'll ask Robert, or we'll get that conversation happening. I'm thrilled that you're willing to have it, by the way, so thank you. And I love what you're saying. I couldn't agree more. When I first came in, what I had noticed that a lot of the people, and even surf instructors and whatnot, had kids and women back behind the trees, as we call it.
Yeah.
But then sometimes they moved on and adjusted and got cars and our bikes and jobs and started hanging out with other tourists, basically. But they were left alone back there. So that was the early version of Mercy Homes that we were doing in the area. Was there were so many. There's so many people that had multiple kids, but they didn't have anywhere to go. They didn't have a place to live, and sometimes the dads were just gone. So that caught my attention, and then you see that they are with the family, the grandparents. Somebody held them in. There was some unifying thing, much like you described. That is real.
Yeah.
Also, let me just put, adding to the list of things that women do better than men, it's pretty well established that women repay debt better than men do. And that's the essence of microloans and the small business loans. So I'm thinking about Cresse and how, those guys are smart. They're lending to the people who are most likely able to repay the loan. So I think Cresse is playing a role in terms of addressing the core issue you're talking about. They're playing a role there.
Yeah.
They are also Nosara Siente, a couple others from Cynthia from James Initiative. There's stuff going on in Esperanza for psychological help, helping women to feel safe. So we do have the early.
We do have a lot, and if they can all work together very well, it gets better and better and better. And I think just also valuing, just having the attitude of it is valuable and worthwhile to help women feel safe, to help women have what they need to thrive.
Establishing that confidence and identity and solidity early. Like I'm thinking of dream catchers as we're talking. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that organization, but
Are you?
I've heard of
so
it.
they've come on the scene in recent years. I'm a real big fan. Like
Okay.
they're one of my favorites, and here's why. They have figured out how and where to allocate the resources. So sometimes people will have a party, for example, each year. Then sometimes it can kind of get territorialized in itself. These people get this, these people get that. Dreamcatchers is digging deep. Like they're truly finding a way to get arts, dance, music, education, supplies, clothing, whatever it is, they're landing it in the right spot more than anyone I've seen to date.
Awesome.
So like the Biblioteca, those folks like it. So there is hope. That's why I'm saying whenever people get down, it's like we actually have more momentum and positive things than we've ever had. And I'm not saying we're taking the hits. And as you rightfully put, we could mourn those. I've never thought about it in those terms. That made a lot of sense to me. It's okay to mourn those, but don't give up. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like I'm already in the machine. If I'm going to be here and contribute to this, hiding from it isn't doing me any good. I may as well steer into the wind, and we should do the best we can with what even if the ship's going down, we still need to be swinging. But I don't know if our ship is going down. I'm not saying it's not heartbreaking to see it grow.
Right.
I actually think Nosara has a chance to be a model community for the world. And I kind of like to think that's where you guys are operating from.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. In the
This
old
whole
days
time.
of snowboarding, when I learned in like the late 80s anyway, they would say, don't look at the tree, look at the piste or where you're going to snowboard. Because if you look at the tree, your eyes turn, your heads turn, your spine turns, your hips turn, and sure enough, you go right into the tree. It doesn't mean like ignore issues, but like your main focus, just like you're, paddling for a wave and then you're dropping in, you're looking where you want to go. When I was first learning to surf, I remember those moments of looking straight down and going, ah. You got to look.
That's such a good analogy.
You got to look where you want to go.
And on top of it, have the situational awareness.
Yes.
You do need to have the situational awareness.
Totally.
But then you keep that focus looking where you want to go.
You just both, I could be putting this together. What we need is more success stories. We need people to have hope. We need people to know that it is working in some cases. We need to celebrate success stories. Social media is rife with fast images. It's generally something attractive or a food or a puppy or a handsome man or woman or just whatever it is. It's kind of something fast. People are looking for that quick. We need to find a way to get success and hope into the cycle.
Yeah.
So that the rich, the poor, the in-between, doesn't matter, sees that there is hope, there's a way to do this. That's what I feel that we're missing.
Yeah.
That's what was missing in high school for me.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I feel about this town right now.
Well, let's
that's
talk
my thing.
about that for a minute. You were missing hope in high school. I can relate to that. And we have young teens who have their ups and downs like any young teens do. And you know what I keep thinking about is I actually keep thinking about hope, because when you're younger, you don't have the context to understand, like, yeah, this is a hard time in life. Like your high school, junior high, there's like a lot, your body's changing and friend networks are changing and people are trying to figure out who they really are. And
a week feels like
sometimes
a
people
year
are
when you're
like,
a kid. Like,
yeah, and sometimes people are putting out strategies like, what if I'm the mean girl? Like, what if I'm the tough guy? Like, they try on different things that maybe isn't really who they are. Like, surely you know people from high school who treated you one way then and who are very different people now, like,
I knew one guy who went from a reggae Rastafarian to cowboy. That was an interesting transition.
Yeah,
hey, I
that
know
is.
people who moved to a certain town and renamed themselves after trees and flowers and all kinds of things all the time.
Right.
You can have a button to do that.
And I know people who were kind of mean,
Come on.
who are not mean now.
Yeah.
So
That's
Nice
true.
point,
This place
Susan.
softens people too.
Yeah.
There's people who came in like full of.
Yeah.
One of my
Yeah.
musician friends, I came in from the Northeast and he was built to protect. He's like, I had to be like this, but now he's softening up.
Yeah.
You can let
Wonderful.
that go now. This place does
Yeah.
that. I know we're
Wonderful.
running short of time. I have to ask you a couple more questions, and we have to.
And I also
Okay,
have to
I
go
was
to the
going to
bathroom.
ask if
But
we
I-
were your longest interview ever.
No.
You can
Really?
assign about ideas, and we can go on and
Yeah.
on. Clearly.
No, we're just not going to see each other, have this opportunity again for a while. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to make the most
Cool.
of it right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to do a biblioteca call here in a couple minutes
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you volunteering with them?
I'm on it's the only board I'm still kind of
Awesome.
on. I'm on the advisory board. I've dropped all
Thank
the
you.
boards and put it into the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I can't think of it.
great direction.
Yeah.
Well, the boards
Very strategic.
I was trying
That
to
was
be.
rising up and being like, what do we need here?
I appreciate you saying that, which is true. I was doing that, but really it was also therapeutic. I needed this for me
Ah.
because, well, when I was helping lead the church group, people would call me Pastor Rich. Like I'm the last thing in the world as a pastor. They talk about the church group.
Mhm.
I didn't even really necessarily believe what they wanted me to.
Yeah.
I just knew how to raise money through churches, and that's how we kind of got Mercy Homes going.
Yeah.
And then later on, Maximo and Danny and all those people came and took it over. So then I bounced over to security. I
Yeah.
was like, all right, well, if I'm going to work in the rental business, this is a big issue. People are getting robbed. This is
Yeah.
horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrendous. You bring people on vacation and they have one of the worst experiences of their life. I'm a part of this. So that's where the security service came from. So then,
Yeah.
but every conversation went around security. And then if it's about real estate, then it's real
Yeah.
estate rich. Then so I've never had my own identity in town away from kind of my day job and surfing Nosara or whatever community event it was.
Yeah.
So my wife won't even go out to dinner anymore because it's always somebody will stop to talk about something. I don't have it in me to say no. I'm
Yeah.
not good at establishing lines, and I'll sit there and do it. So I'm stuck
Now
there.
we all know when Rich is out with his wife.
Please give them a moment.
We're going to give you guys a moment. Absolutely.
If you can get her back out, that would be great. So but it was all well intended, but I found myself, it was in the same tunnels.
Yeah.
And then all the boards that I was on. A lot of the people who mean so well only live for part-time.
Yeah.
So you'd make progress sometimes,
Yeah.
and then only to lose it, to reset it. And every
Yeah.
year it was the same conversation. Then social media came out and inflamed, and it's the same argument. Today, people are typing the same thing that they were typing. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I was internally, I was wrestling with that, and I was like, well, information is what we need. Social scientists are saying this. We already get along, and then I work inside the machine. I'm already talking to everyone anyway. So it hit me. I'm just going to record the conversation, and everyone can hear someone out,
Yeah.
and then we can just start the conversation here. So now people approach me. I don't mind. I just don't want the base level conversation. I just want to get up a
Yeah.
little bit higher.
Yeah.
And Rich, it's not just information. It's going back. You asked me the question of how do we build community. I feel like you are doing it with this podcast because we're getting to know each other as human beings.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing that this is doing. So thank you.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying. I am after social media. Like that is my, if I'm allowed to pick an enemy, I think it's a good one to pick.
Yeah.
I'm after it. I'm tired of the same repetitive stuff.
Total dopamine addiction kind of.
The whole thing.
Tracks,
So
yeah.
you mentioned the limbic system. That I feel is what's keeping there. So I could right now put up that plane just flew over. Look at all the planes these days.
Yeah.
That'll start more comments than me going up and putting up a podcast with a guy with a doctorate who's looked into this, who's talked about it. That's not fun. And most people aren't moving through their day. Hey, let me stop and listen to this hour and a half long conversation.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
The
but
power-
people love podcasts.
well, Nosara's folks aren't quite into the audio only. That's why we're doing video. So while
okay.
so the video short clips though, I feel are going to get people to it.
Yeah.
I'm only into podcasts because it started 10, 15 years ago by watching 30-second and 2-minute YouTube clips.
Yeah.
And then that got me to the next one. Then I wanted to hear more. Then I was like, wait a second. So this is what this podcast button on my phone is. I fought it. I didn't want to go
Yeah.
into it. Now here I am.
Yeah.
But I also know the audio only is not going to get this message out to the
Mhm.
people that we needed to hear. Like I want people from this town to hear you. Doesn't matter. Like I said, doesn't matter if they like you, dislike you or me or anything. I just give someone a chance to hear where they're coming from and then just start there. That's it. So I think if we do this systematically, in 5 years now, 300 something episodes, I haven't taken any sponsors or anything, but I might have to. I got to make a living. Like the market's
Yeah.
going down significantly in my industry. I'm trying to figure it out, but no matter what happens, I'm gonna swing as best I can, and I respect that you guys are too. So instead of all these heavy hitting informations, I have to wind up with a couple basic ones. Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. We know your likes. We've gotten through a lot of your dislikes too. Now we're just going to bounce into restaurants.
Okay.
For each of you, I'd like to know, you don't have to do it in particular order. What are your 3 favorite restaurants? Again, no particular order. And what do you generally like to get there? Like if you had to choose that as your menu for the rest of your days, who would like to go first?
Chocolate cake at Malcrianza and fish of the day. I think we both are partial to a fish of the day, and we love like what they've created there at Malcrianza. We don't eat there enough. We're homebodies.
It's good though.
Yeah.
I'm
There's a
hearing
lot of
about
good
that
places.
cake more often. Actually,
Yeah.
Kaya even came in, and Kaya's pretty good at making cakes. So what else?
Well,
So Malacranza was the first
our
one?
real life is we do like a Friday night movie night with the kids a lot. And that is usually a 2-stop pizza stop. So we go to Mama Gui
Yeah.
and then we get our pizza. I like the pasta there. And then we go to Basilico because the kids love Basilico. And I got to tell you, I've been eating Basilico long enough that I also have like, there's a little bit of like home.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet it has a lot of nostalgia. It is for
Yeah.
me. I remember
Yeah.
watching the kids get to play with the dough and Chandi hooking them up when they were just real little.
Yeah.
And I still think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So those are 2 places that we frequent a
Yeah.
lot.
All right.
Anything else? I mean, clearly I eat at the Harmony Hotel a lot and the juice bar.
Why am I drawing a blank?
I
Good
still
God.
love a good casado.
Yeah.
And there's many places to do that. I really appreciate that Rosie's is still
Yes.
like right in the heart of things.
I'm thrilled that they have one in Pilata now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really
yeah.
psyched to see that.
Yeah. And I love to go to Chivo's to kind of both for their music scene, but also to kind of like, it's like a very specific population of Nosara. And that's also fun for me because it reminds me a lot of early days of being here, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's fun.
Yeah, shout out to Matt and Joel for having that, because that's where you get the everyman. The people are getting off work to go hang or congregate.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the grocery store there. Thank goodness. Hey, can we talk about Pilata for just a second?
Sure.
So Pilata, there's businesses there now, like and coming and more,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
Yesterday on the internet, someone yelled at me for posting a video of the bay, and I was like, no, our most popular restaurant, it's sitting here. This isn't a secret. I was like, we see those trees. Do you see those businesses? We need this place to actually catch.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm happy to see that it's coming. Do you guys have any
Well,
thoughts?
wait,
Or
I guess I don't understand what you mean by we need this to catch.
we need the local businesses to be supported.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to discourage people from going to Pilata
Okay.
because people think it's a secret.
Ah.
The secret's out. It's
Oh, yeah.
stunning.
The
Enjoy it.
secret- To me, the secret is way out.
That's
Yeah.
my point in
Yeah.
bringing it up. But
Yeah,
Get
okay.
Hooked just opened up there.
Yeah.
There's a cupcake store.
Yeah.
There's all
Yeah.
types of stuff. Like I
Wait,
want.
there's a cupcake store?
Yes.
Oh.
There's a new art
boy.
gallery.
And
Olga is
Secret
now is
Spot.
making a push. Secret Spot is fantastic.
Secret spot.
So
yes.
I want them to make it. I don't
Yeah.
want it to be a secret. I want people to go enjoy the beach.
Ah.
I actually think
Yeah.
my whole theme on all this,
Yeah.
since development's already happening, people already come in. I think the new people are the solution.
Yeah.
Instead of extracting money from the same people who've always been here, can you give more? I mean, how many times do you guys get approached? It's nonstop. It doesn't end. And it's getting more. We
Yeah.
have more NGOs than we've ever had. And it's all well intended. I'm not dogging it out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I guess you know what I'm saying. I'm kind of
I do
repeating
know
myself
what you're
here.
saying, and it kind of goes back to holistic thinking too, and looking for potential that's already right in front of you. New people, there's a lot of them. That's potential. Other overlooked potentials. I mean, I think there's so much wisdom that has been here and insight that has been here all along that we haven't fully absorbed, and so that's another potential. And then I
Yes.
think the biggest potential of all is, can we bring these things together? And, you know, a simple thing that we all could be doing, when I say we all, meaning all of us who are not from here, is learning Spanish. And I'm humbly saying that because it's not been coming easy for me. Like I'm not someone who just picks up languages, and I can kind of get by in a pretty embarrassing way, but I keep trying, and I'm actually really enjoying learning Spanish. But that is something that I think we all really, you don't have to do it, but it would be really good to do. And I've actually been finding that I'm enjoying the process so much.
Geez, you just make me think of the Biblioteca and how powerful the Spanish or the English program is, because I think that it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So we need to get, again, opportunities. We need to get the cultures mixed as fast as possible so we can rise all the ships, right?
Yeah.
Those programs that people volunteer for, you could go teach English to people not knowing Spanish, and you learn so much Spanish in the teaching of the English.
Yeah.
And then you become friends. So that's beautiful. We need that, like,
more
cycling.
of that.
Exactly.
More of that, because I think we're gonna find there's so much potential.
Well, then the
in
kids
that.
can start hanging out. I was
Yes.
scared. I'm still scared of some people. I'm not fluent. I'm still scared. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I won't quite, like, it's
You're
intimidating.
scared to speak in Spanish.
Yeah. So I'm saying
Oh,
when
I
I
get
first
that.
got here in
Yeah.
particular, I was really scared. So for years, I just kind of hid because I
Yeah.
didn't want to expose.
Yeah, there is a vulnerability in it, isn't there? When you're learning a new language and yeah,
So I'm trying to tell
I
my
get
Tico
it.
friends
I
now
get
that I can
shy.
communicate with them. I'm trying to explain to them, it's not, hey, it's that person that you think is ignoring you, or you're thinking they're just this or that. Actually, they might be scared. If they knew that you were okay with them struggling and failing, that would
Yeah.
kind of work. And I'm not trying to justify not speaking Spanish. I'm not an idiot. I'm
No.
saying, well, for anyone who's listening right now,
I'm not trying to shame anyone either. I just want to be clear about that.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's a big deal to try, and I say I'm very humbly saying it, because if you listen to me speak Spanish, I often say I speak Spanish with machete. Like I'm just kind of like hacking my way through this. But
well, hey, 2 years from now, you guys come back and we'll do one in Spanish.
Cool.
that would be really cool, and that's a goal for me. That's
Yes.
a goal to aspire to.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
we have it.
Yep.
It's out there.
Thank you.
You said say it, make things happen, and we're starting to make
Yeah.
something happen.
Yeah.
All right, now any other manifestations you want to put out there while you have this platform?
One thing that kind of solidified for me during our conversation, and talking about problems in the community, talking about our own personal things that we're doing, is I suddenly had this like real excitement that I can hear a little bit in a comment that you made, like, what, you don't have cars in there? Like, are you crazy? There's a little bit of that. But I also feel like, wow, we're getting to look where we want to go. The fact that we are living light by having the houses on stilts, and we're not excavating the land, and we're letting the natural systems that slow the water down and sink it in do their thing, I think that's pretty big, and I'm really excited about it. I would say that a lot of times when we think about nature, it's like out there. And I think one thing we have the opportunity for here in Nosara, that we still have the opportunity for, is to live with nature and get to enjoy it that way. Jury's out. Like, are we going to make that choice of living with nature? Are we going to? I see a trend that's very concerning, and where we're losing a lot of forests and trees. And I think what we can do, and what we are set up to do in the Bosque, is live both in human community and in community with nature. And that, I think, is really exciting.
It is. Well, you have Calle Modelo, and then you have Bosque Modelo.
That's how we think about it. I would really love for us to do something that we can be proud of and that people would be inspired by.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're about to find out.
Yeah, we're about to find out.
You have covered so much ground.
Mhm.
This is going to be very helpful. the whole world's not going to see it and care. But
That's okay.
the power of what you just did, the time you just invested, people are going to see this over a long period of time. They're going to get to hear where you're coming from. And there's still plenty more to cover on a myriad of subjects, but
Yeah.
it's going to hopefully promulgate conversation. And thank you for making like time in your busy, busy lives to come
Thank
do
you
this.
for
Oh
Thank you.
yeah,
having us.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. Let's do it.